Life took an unexpected turn when I was accused of a crime I did not commit. The trial was a whirlwind of confusions and circumstantial evidence that was not enough to prove my innocence. Before I knew it, I was being transferred to a state prison with fear beating in my chest like an incessant drum. I had never been so close to the abyss. Welcome to your favorite gay stories channel, Pride Chronicles. We invite you to subscribe to the channel and give us a like to the video. By the way, we have noticed that more than 90% who watch our videos are not subscribed. Help us with your subscription to the channel. Let's get started. From day one, the prison felt like another planet, where the rules of the outside world did not apply. Everything was dominated by force and intimidation, and I, with my thinner build and no experience in this environment, felt vulnerable. For the first few weeks, I tried to keep a low profile, avoiding trouble and seeking to survive in silence. But even with my reserved attitude, I noticed three tall, burly men watching me from afar. They were always together, as if they formed their own little group, and every time I passed by, their gazes seemed to follow me, making me feel even more exposed. The moment I had been dreading came one afternoon in the yard. I was sitting alone, trying to ignore the bustle of the other inmates, when I felt their shadows on me. When I looked up, there they were, imposing and with expressions I couldn't decipher. My heart began to pound, convinced that this was the end of me. One of them, the tallest, ordered me to follow him. Without daring to question it, I did so, while the other two closed ranks behind me. Hey, are you liking the video so far? Since we know you do, leave us a like and subscribe to the best storytelling channel on the internet. Let's keep going. I was taken to a secluded corner, away from the surveillance cameras and the gazes of the guards. My mind was in total chaos, imagining worst-case scenarios. When I was cornered against a wall, the leader, whose name I later learned was Luis, came closer. I thought he was going to hit me, but instead he spoke in a low, surprisingly calm tone. "Don't worry," he said. "We're not here to hurt you." My eyes widened, unable to comprehend what was happening. Luis looked straight at me, then added something I never expected to hear in that place. "We know you're just like us. You don't have to hide it." My mind was slow to process his words. What did he mean by "like us"? Before I could respond, another one of them, a man named Miguel, smiled and said, "We're gay, and we've noticed that you are too." His confession was like a bolt of lightning in the middle of the darkness. I never thought something like that could happen in a place as hostile as prison. Luis continued, "Life may be hard here, but we take care of our own. From now on, you are with us. No one will touch you." It was then that my fear began to dissipate. Despite their intimidating appearance, these men were not what I had assumed. Over the next few days, they became my protectors. Miguel had a sense of humor that managed to ease tensions, while Pedro, the third, was calm and thoughtful, always analyzing the environment. Luis, on the other hand, was the natural leader, with an authority that no one questioned. Over time, I began to feel part of their little group. We shared conversations in the cell, moments in the yard, and even protected our food rations together. Little by little, they stopped being just survival companions and became friends. But among them, it was Luis who captured my attention in a way I could not ignore. His strength was not only physical. There was something in the way he spoke, in the way he looked at me, that made me feel seen and understood like never before. Hey, wait! Before we continue, we invite you to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. Also comment if you want to hear a particular story. Let's continue. One night, while the rest of the prison was asleep, Luis and I were in a corner of the shared cell, talking quietly. I asked him how he had ended up there. He told me his story honestly, admitting the mistakes that led to his conviction, but also showing me a human and vulnerable side that I would never have expected. In a moment of silence, our gazes met, and I felt something indescribable, as if the air between us had become charged with electricity. Luis broke the silence. "You know, ever since you arrived, I've wanted to protect you. Not because you're weak, but because there's something about you that makes me want to take care of you." His confession left me speechless. Before I could respond, he leaned toward me, and our lips met in a kiss that seemed to stop time. It was brief, but full of meaning. In that instant, I knew that what I felt for him was much more than admiration. Our connection grew stronger in the following days, although we were careful not to let anyone else notice. Even his two companions sometimes stood guard so that no one would see us while we were doing it. We took advantage of the showers and moments when we were alone to do it. He gave me with great force, but at the same time with tenderness. All I did was moan and sometimes cover my mouth so as not to give myself away. The prison was still a dangerous place, and any sign of vulnerability could be used against us. However, those moments alone with Luis became my refuge, the only place where I could be completely myself. Time passed faster than I expected, and one day I received the news I had been waiting for since my admission. My appeal had been accepted, and I would be released in a matter of days. The joy of regaining my freedom was mixed with a deep sadness at the thought of leaving Luis behind. The night before my departure, I stayed awake with him, taking advantage of every second we had left. We talked about our lives, what we dreamed of for the future, and the possibility, however remote, of meeting again someday. When it was time to say goodbye, Luis accompanied me to the door of the pavilion. There, away from prying eyes, he hugged me tightly and whispered, "Never forget who you are, and never forget this place, for all the good it also gave you." Before the guards took me away, he kissed me one last time, a kiss full of promises and goodbyes. Hey, please don't forget to subscribe and like us for more content like this. It helps us to grow this community more. Let's continue. I left the prison with a heart torn between the joy of getting my life back and the sadness of leaving someone so important behind. Although I knew Luis still had years to serve, a part of me did not lose hope that someday our paths would cross again. His memory, his strength, and his love became my greatest motivation to start again. This time with the certainty that even in the darkest of places, love can blossom in unexpected ways. The days following my release were strange. On the one hand, I felt a freedom I had longed for since the moment I set foot in that prison. On the other, there was the emptiness Luis left behind. I walked the streets of the city with my mind torn between the excitement of being back in my world and the feeling of having left a part of me behind those walls. His voice, his gaze, his way of protecting me and showing me that even in a place as inhospitable as a prison, something pure could be born, kept echoing in my mind. I tried to get back to the routine, but it was complicated. Every little moment brought me back to him, a song playing on the radio, the smell of coffee, even just walking through a park made me think about what it would be like to have him with me, sharing all that. I decided to write to him, though I wasn't sure if my letters would get through. I found the address of the prison and began to put down on paper everything I felt, everything I couldn't tell him the day we said goodbye. In each letter I told him about my life outside, about the small triumphs and the difficulties I faced. I told him how much I missed him, how his strength continued to inspire me to keep going. It took weeks before I received a reply, but when it finally came, I knew it was all worth it. Luis wrote to me about his days in prison, about how he remembered every conversation and every moment we shared. His letter was steeped in hope, even though he knew he still had a long road ahead of him. Over time, those letters became our way of keeping the connection alive. Even though we were miles and bars apart, his love remained an essential part of my life. Every word I received from him reminded me that even though the circumstances were difficult, the bond we had created was something that nothing and no one could break. That's all for today. If you liked the video and you loved this story, which we are sure you did, leave us a like and share it with your friends so they don't miss it.